This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Well, look at all the happy faces out there. And you know what? When you're happy, we're happy too.
Hi, everybody. So glad you could join us for another edition of the Farm Monitor. I'm Kenny Burgamy. He's Ray DeLessio. And hopefully that smile stays on your face when you see what we have in store for you. Coming up, with the potential to reduce construction time and cost while also having a positive impact on the environment, this new material could be a game changer for the timber industry in Georgia and beyond.
Also on the program, it's an inside look at Hillcrest Farm's groundbreaking contribution to the dairy industry's sustainability drive. Owners Mark and Andy Rodgers show us step-by-step how they're helping to propel the dairy industry towards a greener future. Just some of the stories you'll see, and it all starts right now.
Although cross-laminated timber has been available for use in European construction for several decades, it has only recently been introduced to the U.S. market through a new production facility in Dothan, Alabama. As Damon Jones reports, SmartLam North America, the company behind this development, is poised to revolutionize the timber industry.
With Georgia being the #1 producer of commercial timber in the United States, finding new and innovative ways to use it is a top priority within the industry. And that's the goal of SmartLam North America, as they are engineering cross-laminated timber, which can be used by major construction companies on a number of different projects.
It is basically plywood with lumber, utilized in flooring, for large commercial buildings or high-end residential, and as well as 3-plies can be utilized in walls as well.
This type of building material has a number of advantages over its counterparts, as CLT not only creates less of a carbon footprint, but it also makes construction faster and cheaper, as the panels are prefabricated before they are shipped to the site.
Significantly less traffic on site utilizing mass timber products. As well as the speed of installation is significantly reduced. You also have the carbon sequestration side, better for the environment.
This product is made by gluing together 3 or more layers of solid sawn timber, which gives it the structural integrity you would typically see from the more common materials used in large-scale construction projects.
It is very competitive in many applications, stronger than steel. But CLT and glulam are not designed to replace steel. It fits into full mass timber buildings as well as what I'd call steel hybrid CLT buildings. There's many uses for it. Depends on the spans and the loads that the engineers and architects and developers are looking for.
Creating a more viable construction option from timber could be a huge benefit for the industry here in Georgia, as it has the potential to greatly expand the customer base for the growers.
It's an expanded new product line that absorbs capacity of timber and lumber that was not on the market before. And with our growth rate, over the next 5 to 10 years, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing and put more and more demand on sawmills, and it will require additional sawmills in the future as well to keep up with the increased demand.
For that reason, the Georgia Farm Bureau Forestry Committee decided to take an up-close look at the new facility in order to get a better idea of what has made it so popular overseas and how it can benefit the domestic industry in the future.
We're probably close to 20 years behind them, but the growth that they've experienced there is here. We're starting to see it not only with the number of projects, but the scope and size of the projects keep growing and growing each year. So over the next 20 to 30 years in the wood products industry, this has the most growth potential.
Reporting from Dothan, Alabama, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Now, meantime, although the citrus industry is relatively new in Georgia, it's experienced rapid growth in recent years. However, it's also been hit with a number of challenges, particularly with diseases that can destroy entire groves. That's why it's crucial to have a supply of trees grown in certified greenhouses. John Holcomb reports on a Thomas County operation that is both growing trees and promoting the industry's safety.
2 years ago, this greenhouse full of young citrus trees was just a dream for Lindy Savelle, owner of Georgia Grown Citrus here in Thomas County. However, as you can see, that dream has now flourished into a reality, one in which Savelle grows a variety of different citrus trees designed to be more vigorous and suitable in colder climates.
To be successful in Georgia, you really need to have a tree on a cold hardy rootstock. If you buy it from someplace else, it may not even be on a rootstock. It might just be grown from a clipping, or it might be on a rootstock that is an aggressive grower and less cold hardy. So that's the first thing. You want to have a rootstock cold hardy in nature. And then it has to come from a certified rootstock seed. And then the next thing is our trees are budded, very similar to grafting, but it's a bud being placed on the rootstock. And that needs to come from a certified mother tree or a scion tree.
Not only are Savelle's seeds and rootstocks USDA certified, so is her greenhouse, which means all of their trees are kept in a disease-free environment and are tested before they're allowed to sell them.
We have people in neighboring states, Alabama, Mississippi, that drive all the way here to purchase trees, but also we ship trees throughout the U.S. We've shipped to Maine, to Washington, and down. So in order to ship outside the state, you have to be USDA certified. But what that actually means to the consumer is that the trees are tested twice a year, and the facility itself is inspected once a month, which if you're looking for a tree, citrus tree, you want it to be one that's grown in an environment that is close to being disease-free as you can get it, and that's what we're striving for is disease-free trees.
According to Savelle, the importance of greenhouse nurseries like this one with disease-tested and free trees can't be overstated, as citrus is very susceptible to disease, and an outbreak could be detrimental to the state's citrus industry.
Florida, our sister state, has lost 80% of its production due to disease, primarily citrus greening, which is a devastating disease. Oftentimes takes about 5 years for that disease to surface, where you know something's wrong with that tree. So you might have a tree that you buy today that it might not show disease for years down the road, but it's so important. We have a commercial industry now in Georgia of citrus, and we've got 500,000 trees in the ground and lots of 150 plus growers who are planting this for commercial production. So it's so important that we protect their investment, our investment. We also have a commercial grove as well. So you put out a lot of money, you want to protect it from disease. Citrus is one of the highest disease potential commodities that there is.
Reporting in Otlockney for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
After the break, we explore Hillcrest Farm's groundbreaking efforts in the dairy industry sustainability drive, how they're leading the way in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and achieving the industry's goals.
At Georgia Farm Bureau, we love to celebrate our members, which is why we're excited to announce a new partnership with Magnolia Loom, a proud Georgia-grown business that shares our values of supporting and promoting Georgia agriculture. For a limited time, an exclusive collection of merchandise will be made available at magnolialoom.com for those who want to support the mission of Georgia Farm Bureau. This collection starts on May 1st and ends on May 14th. To learn more about this partnership and how you can benefit, visit our social media pages or online at gfb.org.
You're probably among the 98% of Americans not directly involved in farming, but farming and cows sure do have an impact on your life. Dairy cows and dairy farmers make amazing contributions to the food system and ecosystem, which affects what you eat and how you live. On top of that, cows are just plain cool. Think about this. 80% of a dairy cow's diet can't be eaten by people. They eat grass, alfalfa, corn, wheat, and plant waste left over from manufacturing, like almond hulls, orange peels, and cottonseed. You ever try eating an orange peel? Ew. But cows love it, and it benefits the planet when they turn waste material into wholesome milk. That milk contains nutrients essential to human health, such as calcium, vitamin D, potassium, and protein. How amazing is that? The secret is every cow's 4-chambered stomach that unlocks energy and nutrients to help them upcycle 306 million pounds of food waste into nutritious, delicious dairy foods every year. It's nice to know that animal care is a #1 priority on dairy farms too. Farmers focus on what's good for cows, good for the farm, and good for the planet. For more fun facts about cows and dairy farming, watch our other short videos in this series. Visit us online at thedairyalliance.com.
Speaking of dairy cows, Hillcrest Farms in McDuffie County is part of the Net Zero Initiative project, which has modeled the greenhouse gas footprint of 4 similar dairies in the U.S. The project, led by Dairy Management, Inc. and Michigan State University, along with support from the Dairy Alliance, highlights the dairy industry's sustainability efforts towards its 2050 sustainability goals. In the video that you're about to see, Hillcrest Farm showcases its innovations, lessons learned, and progress in reducing environmental impact and improving efficiencies on the farm.
Hello, I'm Mark Rodgers with Hillcrest Farms. We're milking 340 cows with 5 dealer valve robots on 850 acres in Deering, Georgia. We have a freestall barn, which is a typical Georgia, Florida type building that we house cows in here. Everything is built to dissipate heat.
When we first started in a freestall barn 10, 15 years ago, we were told that we could not get the production of Wisconsin, of Minnesota. But we ran over 32,000 herd average for several years. Just shows that with proper cooling, with the right diet, you can have high production in the South. And that high production makes you more efficient with the carbon sequestering that you're doing, because we're getting more product from less animals.
All the flush water, any water we cool cows with, all the water from the robots, everything goes into the same system. Everything is there, goes down with the manure. We use a lot of water when we flush. You know, we send about a 4-inch wall of water down each lane for about a minute 15 seconds. That water's gonna be coming down. So we're using that water, but that's all recycled water. We capture all the nutrients, all the manure on the farm. When we're flushing like this, it goes to the end, and the first step, we slow the slope down when it turns. By turning it and by engineering it with less slope, sand's heavy, it falls out immediately. We travel on down a 150-foot lane. At the end of it, it goes into one of 2 cells. And we actually upcycled used guardrail from the interstate system and basically built a giant colander for manure. So just like a spaghetti colander, the water drains out a weir wall through these guardrails and goes in a pipe and goes back in a pond. We actually have 2 ponds. It goes into the first pond, it settles, and then it goes to the second pond. Now the first pond, about every 3 years, we're gonna need to pump it down and probably haul some sludge out of the bottom onto the fields. The last pond tends to stay a lot cleaner. From there, the only moving part is the pump at the end, and there's a pump that can pump it back up to the 2 water towers at the upper end to flush the barn again. Most of the solid manures we haul to fields. We take it to all the other cropland, whether it's corn land, where we grow small grains and that kind of stuff. We have plenty of land to spread that on. We actually capture all the roof water off every building on the farm through a system of gutters, concrete gutters, and culverts in the ground. And we can either add it to the wastewater system when we need additional irrigation water, or to dilute the system down a little bit, or we can just let that water go straight out onto grasslands to water that pasture. Well, we were able to convert a good bit of cow pasture into cropland. And that was important because we needed places to spread our wastewater from our closed loop system. So here, if they were out on pasture, of course they're gonna manure wherever they want to. It could flow down to a low spot on the farm and eventually make it to a creek into a bigger creek and into the Savannah River. So we do not want that. So with them in this facility, there's no way for the manure to go anywhere that we do not want to take it. And then we put it out based on a conservation nutrient management program. We spread the correct rates on the correct fields to fit that field's needs to get the maximum crop production.
We are constantly growing something, so we're sequestering carbon.
We triple crop land, so it gives us an opportunity to have a crop sequestering year-round.
The 11th of August, I planted this field, which was 42 days ago. So in 42 days, we have got this much growth out of some sorghum. So we're growing 3 crops. When we cut the sorghum off, probably the next day I will go back and drill no-till, some ryegrass and oats back into this land. So we're constantly growing something 365 days a year on this field. We try not to do any more tillage than we have to. I will make one pass with a sprayer, make one pass with a strip till planter rig, and I'm done. So I'm using a lot less fossil fuel to plant this crop than my father did 50 years ago. This is our silage pit. We put a layer of oxygen barrier on top of it, and then on top of that oxygen barrier, we'll put a black and white plastic to help seal it. And on top of that, we put a pest barrier to keep crows and other birds from pecking through the plastic to get to the corn grains. It can actually last multiple years underneath this plastic the way we have it sealed, and we can feed it this year, next year, or even the year after, and still be really good, high quality feed for our cows. It's almost never that we have any product that we need to fork off and not feed to our cows, because when we uncover it, once again, it looks good all the way across.
We're always looking for the next opportunity at Hillcrest. Me and Andy have always had that attitude. We never thought we wanted to be second at anything. And I'm not saying we're the best at anything, but we're trying. We've got that goal. We love our closed loop system. It's very sustainable over the long term. We're using our manure to grow our plants that feed our cows. And then the cows produce more manure that goes back into the system that starts the whole cycle over. So everything here, like I said, with this closed loop system, is highly sustainable.
Up next, get ready to elevate your sandwich game and impress your taste buds with this delicious French dip recipe using certified Angus beef and simple ingredients.
Well, finally this week, no need to fly to Paris for this classic sandwich. In fact, even though the name would suggest it's something you eat under the Eiffel Tower, it was actually invented right here in the States. From our friends at Certified Angus Beef, our recipe this month, the classic French dip.
Sometimes a sandwich is more than just the sum of its parts, and the French dip is just that. Simple ingredients with a little bit of added technique along the way elevate this to way more than just your average sandwich. Tender beef, bread, mustard, maybe some cheese, and all of the juices. That's all it takes to make this delicious sandwich, but there's some crucial steps along the way to make this sandwich the best it can be. So let's get to those details that take this from a regular roast beef sandwich to the famous French dip.
To make a spectacular French dip, you need to start with a great cut of beef. In this recipe, we'll use a certified Angus beef top sirloin roast. This cut is perfect because it's well marbled, tender, and has a great flavor for a sandwich application. We'll keep the seasoning simple with some coarse salt and a nice cracked pepper. No need to go over the top with seasonings here. The flavor of the beef really needs to shine in this sandwich. Make sure to season liberally. This is a pretty big cut. To build flavor and get a beautiful crust, it's important to sear the roast in a skillet. This will create a Maillard reaction on the outside of the meat and also start to build a fond in the pan, which we'll use for the au jus. You can see that it's starting to develop a nice crust all around, and that's what you're going for. Sear on all sides, then put the roast in a sheet pan fitted with a wire rack and into an oven preheated to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Pan searing may seem like an extra step, but trust me, the flavor in the end result will be that much better. While that roasts, you can build a deep and flavorful au jus. This will only take a few ingredients and a little time. A piece of certified Angus beef shank will add viscosity and a deep, beefy flavor to the au jus. Season with a little S&P and go right into that same pan to sear. Again, we're creating a nice crust and building a fond in the pan. More browning equals more flavor. Sear the halved onion as well. This will help to develop more flavor on the onion. Getting a nice char on a halved onion is an old chef's technique for building flavors in soups, so it works great here. Once everything has browned nicely, add to a large saucepan and it's time to start building the au jus. Deglaze the skillet with some low-sodium beef stock. Now you can scrape up all those brown bits that you worked so hard to create. Once the fond is deglazed, add the deglazing liquid to the pan along with the rest of the beef stock. Just let that au jus simmer away. You want a good reduction and to let those beefy flavors infuse. Once the beef hits 125 degrees internally, remove it from the oven for a good rest. It will raise in temperature while it rests to a perfect medium rare. We want this beef to rest a good while, so in the meantime, you can work on the bread. For the sandwich, you'll want to use a nice crusty French loaf, but not a baguette. Baguettes are a little too crusty and narrow for a bulky sandwich like this. This is a 2-foot French loaf that will need to be cut in half, then sliced horizontally, leaving a little crust attached to create a hinge. You could use 4 6-inch rolls if you don't want to mess with this big of a loaf. Now that the roast has rested and cooled a little, it's time to slice. You'll want to cut against the grain, so it's important to determine which way it runs. To make slicing easier, cut it once with the grain into 2 halves. This will give you a flat surface for the roast, which will make it more stable when slicing thin. It will also make the face of the roast half as large, so slices won't be large and unruly. Since this beef is for a sandwich, you'll want to slice it nice and thin. Shave the beef if possible. This is the time to break out your sharpest knife and go to town. The au jus will simmer about 1.5 hours or until you yield about 2 cups of the liquid. Before straining it, make sure to remove that shank and set it aside. There's plenty of flavor left in it, so throw that in your freezer for a soup down the road. Remove the large pieces of onions before straining. You could even chop these up and put them back in your sandwich if that's your style. I like to strain using a fat separator for easy pouring. You could also use a pint measuring cup since there shouldn't be much fat floating on top. Now it's time to assemble the sandwich. Pour a little au jus in the same skillet as before and bring to a simmer. Then add half of the sliced beef. I like to add the beef in a row about the length of one section of bread. This will warm the beef through and help to meld the flavors of the jus plus the sliced beef. Top the slices with cheese and cover. It will only take a few minutes to make that cheese good and melty. The only condiment you really need is a good spicy mustard. I found one that has a sweet heat that works so well with this sandwich. The acidity and spice of the mustard really helps to make the rich beefy flavors to pop. Look at that melty cheese. This sandwich is ready to build. Just fill one of those 12-inch loaves with all the juicy and cheesy slices of beef. If you're using 6-inch rolls, this batch will fill 2 of them. It's a must to pour over some of that au jus as well. This sandwich needs to be good and juicy. Now that it's built, cut it in half to serve 2 people or one hungry person who loves a beefy sandwich. Repeat this technique with the second batch of beef and bread. Don't forget to serve it with that remaining au jus for dipping.
This sandwich is so simple, so few ingredients, but it's so beefy. This is a next level French dip. Join us next time here in the Test Kitchen.
Huge thanks to everyone at Certified Angus Beef for that, and thank you for making this show possible.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe and have a great week.